Hello everybody, this is Laura Susan Johnson for Period Pieces, and today I'm going to be reviewing the 1933 version of Little Women, and I believe this is the very first sound version of the story. I think before this one was made there were two silent versions. Since this one was made, I think there's been several versions made. The one I'm most acquainted with is the 1994 version starring Winona Ryder, Susan Sarandon, Trini Alvarado, Claire Danes, Kristen Dunst. Christian Bale was in it too. And I did see that one before I saw this one, but I'm more attached to this one because when I first saw that one, I think I saw that one when it came out on video in 1995. And I saw that one at home in California with a bunch of obnoxious family members, and they just made it a miserable... It should have been a good viewing experience, and if they had any respect, they would have... I don't even know if they knew, but Winona Ryder grew up in the same area that Polly Klaas grew up in. She's the 12-year-old girl who was abducted and murdered, and Little Women was her favorite book. And Winona Ryder was so touched and so, I think, upset by this case. She lobbied to get the movie made, and she wanted to star in the movie, and etc. and so on. All the way in 2008, when I was living in Idaho, I ended up watching this movie on cable, the 1933 version, so I ended up growing more attached to this old black and white. So this one stars, of course, Katharine Hepburn as Jo March. Spring Byington stars as the girl's mother, who they call Marmee. Joan Bennett stars as Amy, the youngest. Jean Parker stars as my favorite character, Bethy. Frances D. stars as the oldest girl, Meg. Paul Lucas stars as Professor Bayer. He doesn't show up till towards the end. Henry Stevenson stars as the elder Mr. Lawrence. And then Douglas Montgomery stars as Laurie, who is Mr. Lawrence's grandson. And Edna May Oliver stars as Aunt March. They call her Aunt March, so she's their dad's sister. And then John Lodge stars as Brooke. So this is, of course, based on the very famous Louisa May Alcott novel. It takes place in the year 1864, which is the Civil War era, of course, and it's in the town of Concord, Massachusetts. The movie opens with an old man getting ready to go visit his very last son. He had 4 sons. He does have one other son who's still alive, but he's in prison in the South, and he might be executed there, so you never really hear what happens. He's just a character you meet in passing. You never do see him after this opening scene. He has 4 sons. 2 of them were killed in the war, and one of them's a prisoner of war. And this last son is dying in the hospital, and he's going to go visit him for probably the last time. And hopefully he'll make it in time to go see him before he dies.